Exhibit A as to why you never sleep on a midweek A-League fixture. Macarthur and the Mariners in Campbelltown, 6th v 7th in the league. 4 goals, 2 red cards, and the Central Coast Mariners, the team to which saying they had a pre-season transfer window would be a generous statement, are inside the finals positions. They've done it again. Ben Mazzeo's late equaliser keeps honours even at the halfway point of Melbourne City's tie against Buriram in the Champions League Elite. What a ball from Marcus Younis. Is he on the plane? I'm going to talk a little bit too enthusiastically about the effect on the coefficient, and it's just 100 days until kickoff in the Men's World Cup on this episode of the Round Ball Australia podcast. My name is Lachie Avil. Joining me tonight is Will Booth. No one tell his boss. He's logged off 5 minutes early from his Zoom call to join us today. Will, appreciate your company. How's it going?
Yeah, it's good, thank you. I actually, they have been asking the name for this podcast recently off me. So I hope you don't watch this episode in particular, but no, good to be here. Any listeners that, are welcome. So I'm not shying away from passing it on.
Jacob Stevens, hello to you as well. I know it's been a long day at work for you, but the good news is we get to do your favourite thing, which is talk about football.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, could be a lot worse. And, I haven't been on a podcast for like 2 or 3 in a row now, I think. So it's,
wow.
That's poor form from me, usually the one that's there all the time. So it's good to be back.
Well, what a game we've just come off of. The Bulls against the Mariners. We flagged this on the last episode. This could be a really season-defining game for the two sides. And with the exception of last year, they had football in Asia, and it really compounded all the different difficulties for them. But even in their 2 championships years, even in the treble year, they were just, they performed so high above expectations. And obviously this is not at this level, but the turnaround that they've had from such a poor start to the season with the limited support that they had until the January window, for them to now be, I think it's 6 games undefeated. They've obviously just ended the jet streak on the weekend. To be inside the top 6 is a pretty remarkable feat in itself.
Yeah, I think it's actually 7 now. We're up to undefeated for the Mariners. And it's just crazy because the Mark Jackson years, the championship years, they had a feeling, you saw signings, you saw Mark Jackson in general as a coach. There was something special in that. There was this sense of the squad could overperform, but Jackson also just got the best out of what he had, right? It was kind of, it all came together for those seasons. The start of this season could not be in like more of a contrast to that, because it looked like it was just all falling apart. And that's what makes the position the Mariners are in right now just a miracle, because the ownership cloud, that ruins any team's momentum. That we saw with the Jets for years. They had just a fog over their club, and performances matched that, right? That it really, really hamstrung them to a degree. And it's just, as I said, miraculous that the Mariners have, risen through that shambles of a saga early in this season. Seemingly got rid of a few kind of bad actors hanging around the club looking to capitalize, and run by a steady hand in the APL, and performances couldn't be going better for them right now. Like the informed team other than the Jets in the league, which with this squad, coach Warren Moon coming in 3 days before the season starting, it's crazy to be in this position for that team.
I don't know if this is a hot take, Jacob. Maybe you can tell me what you think about it, but I think after tonight we have our top 6. It may fluctuate slightly, but I'm looking, if you go to the Flash Score website and you look at the table, you get the most recent 5 games of form as well. The top 6 teams only have 5 losses. Across all 6 teams in their last 5 games, 5 losses, and then you can see 2 wins across the bottom 6 of the competition. That is like just such a stark image to me that says we have 6 pretty good teams at the moment and 6 teams that are really, really struggling to find a little something. So obviously the Mariners, the 2 teams below them, the Bulls and the Raw, 2 and 3 points there. Sorry, 1 and 3 points respectively, but also a game in hand for the Mariners. So they have the advantage to go push on even further. So I'm almost at the point where I'm saying this is the top 6. This is our final series. This is what we have.
Yeah, and for me, it's almost more a case of the bottom six are just, there's nothing to inspire hope now at this point. I feel like at different points throughout the season, sure, there were, you could say with Brisbane, the way they started the season, but the way the wheels have fallen off there, it's, it feels like they're never going to get a result again. Perth Glory, kind of a similar thing where they've struggled in recent weeks to the point where I think them kind of not performing has it sounds obvious, but that's kind of brought that gap into play. And I, I still, I think that, you look at Adelaide United, Melbourne Victory, Central Coast Mariners, I still think that they can lose very, very winnable games of football moving forwards this season. But it is just that case of, I think the bottom six below that is at almost a different level now, which is crazy to think, right, considering how close it has been all season. But that all it takes really is a month and a half of football, and all of a sudden everyone's kind of changing the story about it, right? And it's that actually now we've kind of seen those that were just taking their opportunities and those that were actually good football teams kind of rising through. And that doesn't mean that it's not still exciting moving forward, right? Because I mean, within the top six, it's still super tight. It's, there's everything's up to play for now moving forward. So, a lot of these teams are going to be playing each other as well in coming weeks. So it's just like, it does feel like that gap's starting to, even though it's not actually there, you can't really see it in terms of point differential. It feels like, at least in terms of the quality of football that's being played, it feels like it's starting to open itself up. That's not to say that, Brisbane can't turn around and start to perform to the level that they were, although injuries, and there's been two big ones recently as well for them, with Chris Long and Nick D'Agostino confirmed out. That's not going to help them. City, they seem to be doing again. They're doing all right in Asia, which we'll talk about. Can they convert that back to the league? Who knows? But and then you've got the bottom three who really kind of feel like that is a pretty poor bottom three at this point in time, with Glory, the Wanderers, and the Phoenix. So yeah, it does feel like there's just a gulf in quality at this point between the top six and the bottom six. And like I said, that doesn't mean that kind of those on the fringe aren't capable of moving around a little bit. And yeah, as I said, I don't have faith in some of those top six teams to actually win some of these supposedly winnable games. But it does feel like at this point in time, it's starting to open things up. And these top six teams now are going to be looking at, right, can we get top four, secure a home final, more than can we secure finals?
Mm-hmm. And a few spots in Asia there to worry about as well. A little bit of a teaser to later on in the episode. On the game itself, well, this was like just almost out of the blue how wildly entertaining this was. The two red cards, 4 quite wild goals as well. You have McCalmont's penalty in the first half, potentially a little bit soft, but we've been talking about penalties a lot. I think it kind of still fits in the range of what we've been seeing for sure. And then we get, to 2-0 and Caceres hits this bomb from long range and you think, okay, this is going to be an interesting last half an hour. And then the 2 red cards to the Bulls. So first of all, Tomislav Uskok, really late, studs in on the ankle, nowhere near the ball really. I'm not sure if anyone really can have too many complaints about that one. And then Robinson, the young keeper, who, and I know you're a big fan of it and you're part of the union, so we won't begrudge you a little bit of favouritism here, but he's been thrown in and pretty much said this position is yours until the end of the season. And he's come out of the box. There was a weird kind of advantage, non-advantage situation. They came back. It was a clear foul, obviously, but the red card, I know there were still players around. Watching it live, I thought potentially he might have been a little bit hard done by. But I don't know, as a keeper, if you go out and you commit a foul like that, you're always potentially looking at the wrong end of the two colours of cards.
Yeah, I think in that instance, that's kind of what you have to expect. I think he did wipe him out, and at the moment he did, he was last man there. So it was pretty late contact. It was, I think he had the momentum, Blair, so it would have been an open goal had he got to the ball. So yeah, I think a pretty clear kind of obvious goal scoring opportunity there. Just tough on him, yeah, as we say. Lachie, we did say it last episode as well. I was happy that the Bulls were sticking behind him, and you saw glimpses up until his red card in this game of a few really good and commanding saves. Some really kind of nefarious set piece tactics of crowding him on corners, not like the whole squad like a certain team does, but just a couple of members. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But no, because he's not the biggest keeper, right? So it's kind of just, that's, a very fair tactic, but he handled that really well, and I thought looked really composed this game. And considering he hasn't had the best of the last couple games, I thought that was really good for him to bounce back. And then just such an unfortunate red card there, and he'll lose the momentum. Koto has to come back in the side, at least, for the Bulls' sake. They have him there waiting, but really tough timing for the young keeper there. And on Uzcok's red, just to keep going on that, that was pretty standard. I think he was more surprised than anybody else on the field. I think you mentioned that nobody can really have too many complaints. I think he still did, which was very odd. He took ages to get off the field. He does strike me though, Will. He does strike me as the kind of player who, he's always just going to put his hands up on everything that he does and never in the wrong, kind of proclaim his innocence. And,
he was
standing around for a long time for somebody who just he could have broken somebody's ankle in that challenge. I don't know. It was a bit bang average. And I mean, as you said, Lachie, just really bad timing for the implosion from him, because they were right back in that game, and that was 4 seconds after kickoff. It was wild. So really, really bad timing for the Bulls, and really good timing for the Mariners, who took that as their wake up call and really got back momentum of the game, and caused a second red card with their pushing on for an extra goal there. So they forced Robinson's hand to come out. I don't think, going back to that quickly, I don't think it was a bad decision to come out either. I think he made the right choice, stuck to it. He's quick. He really got close, and it was just unfortunate. So, Mariners did really well, and it was just some unlucky timing from the Bulls that really let them get away with this one.
What did we decide in the end? Was it 4 minutes between the Robbo's having a good night message in the WhatsApp to when he got sent off?
Yeah, there was a few unresponded messages there, and I was just replying to myself going, oh yeah, I've just fully commentators cursed that one. Sorry guys. I felt bad. More for Paletti. Paletti's a fan of Robbo as well, and we both were hyping him up in the group chat at various times, and I watched him come through it at MPL level, so I feel like a piece of connection there. And yeah, it's sad to see when you put your name to somebody like this, and it just goes awry.
He'll be back. The other thing about this game, I don't know if this is odd. I don't know if this is a practical solution, but obviously the Bulls got knocked out of Asia last week, and the reason that this game was moved to midweek here initially was because to try and give the Bulls a bye earlier in the season when they had game weeks back to back of playing in the Champions League. However, they got eliminated. They don't have any more Asian football, and now MacArthur and Central Coast don't play this weekend. So I don't know whether the A-League could have just gone, okay, we'll maybe just play it on Sunday afternoon instead. A bit more, obviously more crowd friendly than playing it at 7 o'clock scheduled time on midweek. I don't know if that's plausible, Jacob, but it just struck me as odd. We've only got 4 games this weekend, and 2 teams are playing midweek that don't have a fixture.
I mean, yeah, but also it comes to, travel plans for the Mariners. What have they got in, is it going to be too much of a hassle for them to, stop the midweek one and come back down on the Sunday? And of course it's not, the biggest trip in the A-League, but it's not like it's, easy to do. It's not literally across the street. So, that probably played a little bit into it. Also a case of just, well, I mean, it would be nice to move it to the Sunday, but there's nothing inherently wrong with just having it midweek. Everyone's ready for it midweek, prep for it. And I don't know, maybe both teams were like, actually, it would be nice to have the weekend off, right? And just
true.
A little bit of an extra break, especially for MacArthur off the back of their Asia. Just give themselves a little bit more time to recuperate, and who knows, try and hit back in the back end of the season. But yeah, it's probably just a case of it's too much to actually deal with to try and move it to Sunday. Is as much as it seems like a sensible solution, it's probably it's just easier for us to keep it midweek. Fans aren't going to be the biggest supporters of that, but they've also probably made plans to go to the game on a Wednesday night rather than the Sunday. Maybe they've got plans for the Sunday now, I don't know, but yeah, it's probably a little bit too difficult to move it back to a weekend slot. They just went, we'll just stick with it. I can kind of, I respect that. It's like, it's
a little bit too
now.
Close to the piece.
Yeah, it's done. We'll just stick with it.
I actually, to your point as well, MacArthur would probably, especially after the run they're having, be grateful for just a little reset point, a little break, have a couple of days off, come back refreshed, and then go again. The other game, of course, was Melbourne City on the Tuesday night. This was a pretty tense game, and there were not really a lot of chances, but it was quite tight the whole way. Patrick Beach will definitely be disappointed to concede as he did at his near post. But the goal late on 95th minute, I think it was. You're right, Will? Did I say something wrong?
Thunder hammered that home, top corner, and you're saying shouldn't have got beat at his near post.
Goalkeepers should never get beaten at their near post.
That's just the biggest fallacy in football, actually, ever. Oh,
really?
God. Yeah.
Okay, I'll cop it if it's coming back.
Sorry.
But I will say, like, Beach, he has one step to anticipate the cross.
He steps to his right a tiny bit, but there's no way to save it. Like that, he makes the right anticipation, but that doesn't stop him from making the save. It is just thundered in the top corner. And that's saying so. I got done in a similar way on the weekend in the Australia Cup game, which we don't want to get into, but I was out positioned for a cross. He's shanked it, and I've been caught off guard. So I know the feeling, but I don't think that's Beach's fault there. That was hammered top corner, and from that angle as well makes it even harder to it's not a comfortable save. So
okay, I'll withdraw the critical nature of my complaint. It was a good
put
goal.
Lachie in there and just blast some footballs at him and see what he does.
See how you like it.
Fair enough, I reckon.
Yeah.
Anyway, we go there, 95th minute. City really should have had a goal already. There was one chance, Daniel Azani running in off the left. Marcus Yunus crosses the ball. Azani was never in an onside position anyway, but still managed to miss the shot as well. They should have been back in the game. Aurelio Vidmar was furious that they weren't. But Marcus Yunus, again, he's popped up in the moment that City need him so often in just, I think, the 2 months that he's been at the club, on loan, of course. And he produced another moment of brilliance, delivered it on a tee to Ben Mazzeo, who scored a couple of goals in the last few weeks across the academy side and the senior side. And he knocks it in to take it up to 1-1. So obviously the worst thing you could do, Jacob, is lose the first leg at home. That puts you in a really difficult position. But at least now knowing it's even, it is all to play for. Even away from home, this City team have proven that they are at their best this year when they just absolutely shouldn't be, when they're backed against the wall. I don't want to, siege mentality is a very big buzzword, but they seem to psych themselves up for the big game. It's not necessarily that everyone's coming at them, but it's like, okay, this is the one that counts. We're going to be under the most pressure. This is where we're going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, and it just also feels like they step up in Asia as well. That's the other thing. I mean, you look at that performance there and you feel like they go 1-0 down in the first half in an A-League game and they're not coming back even to draw it, right? It feels like, the mentality just in Asian competition is different for them, full stop, let alone in bigger games. So, that kind of gives a little bit of, confidence. It's going to be incredibly difficult for sure, and not getting the win at home in the first leg is a massive blow. That's one you want to put in the bank and take, and you can, it's a bit anti-football, but you can just shut up shop then in the second leg and let them try everything and just defend for all you're worth. But they're still in it, right? It's a blank slate. You just go again. I don't know is there a single competition that still uses away goals rule, like in the world? I don't think.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I just know the AFC copy is what UEFA do.
Yeah, I don't know if the ACL Elite uses it or anything, but it's just, it's a blank slate. Just go again, 0-0. And it's a 1 game knockout now for them. So, it's not the worst situation. It's good that they were able to show that fight back. Marcus Yunus, you mentioned there, he's been basically their only good signing from that January window. I mean, you look at all the signings that they made, and everyone's going on about.
They still have time, but so far
they still have time, but so far he's been the only one to have a real impact, which is crazy considering the caliber of some of the players that they did sign. So he's been tremendous, and I know Lachie, obviously you're riding very high on him, suggesting he's on the plane right for the World Cup, or at least very close to it.
I reckon he's absolutely going to get called up in this March window. Whatever he does in that training camp, again, Popovic's style is generally to bring these guys in and just see them on the training park and in the environment. So whatever he does in that situation, and then in the 2 months for the rest of the A-League season, is up to him. But I think at this moment, you think of the likes of the other players, like a Daniel Azani is one of those players that's on the cusp, or at least in Popovic's frame of mind. He's Yunus is wildly outperforming Azani at the moment.
Azani's been terrible.
It's not like it's two separate environments. They're literally playing on opposite wings on the same team on the same field against the same opposition. Like couldn't be more of an even comparison. And you just see that Yunus plays the ball in perfectly, and Azani somehow goes with his right foot, and he's 10 meters offside anyway. That was so funny.
Yeah. And we're only a couple of weeks away from that FIFA series window in Australia as well, of course. I think it's Curacao in Melbourne after Cameroon and Sydney, which is essentially the send-off games for the Socceroos to the World Cup. So that is a very exciting period. And yes, as you say, Jacob, I do believe that Marcus Yunus will potentially be a part of that team. Now, of course, it wouldn't be an RBA midweek episode with Asian football without me talking about the coefficient. I won't do it too much today because we have actually just released a YouTube video up on the Roundball Australia channel if you want to go have a look at it. And I talk all about the implications of this leg, not just for City, but for Australian football. But some other little tidbits that I've deliberately not mentioned because I wasn't sure if anyone was actually aware. So I wanted to get this video out talking about it before I mentioned it. But there is some wild situations where if Melbourne City go on to win the Champions League Elite and then the Jets win the A-League and then there's different spots flowing around, and if Wellington have a good recovery, theoretically sixth in the A-League this season could actually be awarded a spot into the ACL2 next season, which is wild. Literally the one better than average in the league could qualify for Asia, but then they actually wouldn't get the spot. For a completely separate reason. I'll let you go watch the YouTube video to figure that out. But the long and short of it for this game, Jacob, is that the draw was not enough. Sydney now need to progress by whatever method possible against Buriram next week away in Thailand to go and jump China in the rankings, which will give us an extra playoff spot for the 27-28 season. So we've literally had three swings at the bat, MacArthur in 2 legs, and then City in 1 leg as well. We still haven't got it done. So theoretically, that's a strikeout, but we get one more chance anyway.
Yeah, and there's every opportunity for them. It's also and you touched on it in the video, like just so incredible how quickly we've been able to turn around our ranking in Asia from where it was only 5 years ago. But also just how fortunate it is, right, that China have been really, really, really poor this season. So there's been this kind of opportunity now that heading in, I don't think any of us would have been saying, I mean, there's an outside opportunity to maybe jump China, but now it's a very real possibility, and even you might argue a probability that we do it. So that would be enormous to get that extra spot in Asia. That would be the most teams we've ever had in Asia.
We've had 3 before.
We've had 3 before? Okay.
We've had 3 a couple of times.
Yeah. But I mean, still, like it's great to see it come kind of getting back to that level again, and giving sides an opportunity to perform. And now with the financial benefits as well of actually performing well in Asia, teams are going to be more likely to take it seriously, because we've seen in the past from the A-League where they're kind of these midweek games, if you lose your first group stage game, that's it. They kind of just go, okay, yeah, we're not progressing, we won't take it too seriously, there's no financial benefit, we're probably going to lose money if we keep going because we've got to pay for all the travel and all of that. Whereas now obviously financially you're going to be making money for getting performances in. City have made a couple of million already for themselves, so not that they need it, mind, but for other clubs that's a huge opportunity. So it's, I wonder how many of the kind of top 6 clubs or teams kind of in that contention that are Australian kind of are looking at this and hoping City can get that result, because it would be absolutely massive for them. And I wonder how many were aware kind of really even heading into the season that this was a possibility, that there could be an extra Asia slot moving forwards, because we're always talking about what are ways that clubs can make themselves financially viable in the A-League, and how they have to become kind of selling clubs and things like that. But also now if playing continental football is an opportunity for you to start making money, as we see all the time in Europe, right? That's going to be huge for clubs, because now all of a sudden there's actually a benefit to performing well in the league as well, right? It's not just, you don't just want to just kind of get by and do fine, produce players and sell them off. If you can perform well and sell off your players as well, you're then getting into Asia, you're getting that opportunity to earn some prize money. So it's all just, I love the way you framed the video, Lachie, of it being a chance for City to win other clubs' money. but it's true, and I think that there'll be a lot of very interested clubs kind of in that top six going, "Oh, come on, City, get the job done. Do us a favour for once, and and then we'll all be reaping the rewards moving forwards, provided, of course, that we don't just then blow it next season and not win a single game in Asia."
Yeah, that would be a really harsh fall from grace. It's the carrot is so big now. Winning the Champions League Elite represents about a $30 million windfall minimum for Australian clubs, which is ridiculous. Like, we talk about the $1 to $2 million transfers that eases the burden on expenses for the year. Could you imagine what that kind of money would do? That would be, generational change for some of these clubs. What do you reckon, Will? City next week, away to Thailand. Do they get the job done?
Look, they're capable. We've seen, we know City are very capable, and their ladder position in the A-League right now, kind of belies their ability, and so yeah, I'm not pessimistic at all. And what you're saying about the carrot, I mean, it's also I think a carrot for owners as well. Like, this is the motivation they need to actually see where their investment can be returned. So I think this is really, really can't be understated how important this competition is to our country. And it's fair because it's the same on the world stage, right? You get clubs like Bodo Glimt and stuff in there, and all the Conference League clubs. Just the money you get from that means that you will dominate your country's domestic competition. But like, it also elevates it as well and injects a lot of money. Like, City can then spend money on things that benefit other clubs, like you would have mentioned in your video, Lachie. So no, it's really exciting, to be honest. And I think all A-League fans should be cheering City on next week.
And Jacob, you do make a very good point that having the CFG owned team as the example in this scenario takes away the credence from some of the financial arguments, but I think you all take my point. So go watch that YouTube video if you want. But we did mention it earlier with Socceroos and building towards some national team men's chat. Of course, we've still got the Matildas in action throughout the next couple of weeks in the Women's Asian Cup. As you're listening to this on Thursday, the next game is tonight at 8 o'clock against Iran over on the Gold Coast. But big milestone for the Socceroos. It's just 100 days until they kick off in the World Cup. I've just recently started to map out kind of when all the games are being played in Australian time zones, and maybe when we can fit podcast windows in throughout the day and stuff like that. And it's just really kind of hitting me, the mammoth of football that we're going to get in around about 3 and a bit months' time. It is going to be a special event, and there's a lot going on in the world at the moment. One of the big stories from an Australian perspective is that Graham Arnold, obviously the coach of Iraq and is playing a very important qualifier later this month, is stuck in the UAE due to all the I don't even know how to describe it. The conflict, I guess, going on. Yeah, going in that part of the world. The airspace is all shut down, so Graham Arnold literally can't get out of the UAE. So hopefully that's resolved safely for him, and he can get to his Iraqi team in a couple of weeks' time during that international window. But does it feel, Jacob, like the World Cup is building? I feel like the last week has almost kind of turned it on its head a little bit, because there's always been a lot of apprehension. And the ironic part of it all is that we've come off of Russia and Qatar, and then we're going into the US and thinking, oh, thanks, we got a little bit of a break from all this kind of stuff. But that's not what's happened.
It's arguably worse, right? All the kind of stuff we're seeing on social media and the kind of the narratives around a lot of it, it feels like it's even worse. But perhaps that's because it's a Western nation, right? So we're kind of heading in with these expectations of it's going to be a smooth one, and kind of back to normal again. And it's just been anything but. I don't know. I don't know if it does feel like it's building up. When you said 100 days, I was surprised. I would have thought it was kind of a lot further away. I don't know, maybe that's just my perspective on it, where it just feels like it's still a lot, because there's so much domestic football around the world still to play out, and there's so much to play for, and I'm still invested in a lot of performances for teams around the world, to the point where I've not really thought about the World Cup, to be honest. It's also been the case of there's not been a major international window for a little while too, so kind of the discussion around who's going to be in the squads, who's going to be who's looking good, which teams are the favourites, who's going to be a dark horse to perform, that kind of stuff. That's not been a discussion that's been had for a little while either, because those international windows windows haven't opened up for quite a while. So, you know, I think now that we're kind of getting into this phase of these last windows, and for the Socceroos, it's this FIFA Cup thingy, whatever it's called. It's
FIFA series, yeah.
FIFA series. I don't even know the name of it. But no, I feel like it'll start to come back now. Now that we're actually seeing international football, we're seeing these names, we're having these discussions about who's in the team again. It'll start to come back. But the World Cup's always good fun. I love it. You know, there's always things going on around it. I think basically every iteration I can remember, there's been some form of controversy about the World Cup. But at the end of the day, it's the World Cup, right? And it's just such a fun experience to watch these teams and these players, you know, in a very different scenario to how you normally would, right? Where it's not club, it's for your country, and there's these different dynamics going on. It's always good fun, and the storylines are great when it comes to the football. So I am looking forward to it. It just feels like it's still such a long way away, despite it being only 100 days. I don't know. That actually did surprise me when you mentioned it. I was like, wow, okay, yeah, it's not far away at all now.
Well, in the last couple of days over the Socceroos social channels and for this 100 days until the World Cup kind of milestone, I guess, they posted, one of the pieces was a cut between a Tony Popovich press conference from a few months ago. He's talking to press, and it's this yarn about, one day the Socceroos are going to do something special at a World Cup. They're going to go really far. Why can't it be this group? Why can't we be the ones to do something really, really, really special? And then it cuts in and between and goes back and forth a couple of times with Johnny Warren and, talking about we should stop talking about when we're going to qualify for World Cups and start talking about when we're going to win World Cups, and the infamous when I'm playing on the soccer field in the sky, I just want people to remember I told you so. And that video got me more than most, more than watching Riley McGree scoring goals for Middlesbrough at the moment and killing it in the championship. And even when, Moture was fit and scoring goals for Norwich, like that buzz of seeing Australians do well is really exciting, and everyone talking about Socceroo squads and everything. But that really big picture view, that sense that potentially beyond just, kicking a few balls in the right places, that culturally this could have a massive impact. And I don't know, maybe this could be the time the Socceroos do something really special.
No, it feels momentum wise like, yeah, if we build on the last appearance in Qatar, we can have something very special on our hands. Because, even that, I get goosebumps watching those goals back and Lachie's winding run. And, it's so simple. A guy scoring a goal on a field, but how long that burns into your memory, and how it can pull you out of certain funks, and yeah, just the impact it can have on us as individuals, but also, we sit around, we talk about those moments and where we were when Josh Kennedy sent us to the World Cup, that header. I remember exactly where I was. It's just nothing else in my life that I don't know about you guys, but nothing else in my life just compares. Like, I've never ever been aware of where I was at such a moment, as World Cup qualifications and Aloisi and just moments like that. It's really something special. Even some of my first memories as well. This is going back and showing my age, but 2006 World Cup as well. Like, just glimpses I've got in my head, and South Africa a little bit later, man. It's just, this is what it's all about. I think it's so easy to kind of deride international football, and it can get a bit busy, and they keep fiddling with the upcoming international windows, and now it's going to be multiple games, and it always feels like I didn't come so early. One of the international windows always comes so early into the Premier League season and into people's European seasons that they follow, and it always feels like it's a bit of an annoyance. But man, like if you have those moments, and especially Australia, who qualification's never taken for granted, I think it's just so easy for those guys on that field to forge such important memories for us, and just really, really, just give us moments that weigh on our minds for the rest of our lives. Like, that's just, like, you can't understate that. That is just true, which is just incredible. So yeah, it can't be understated enough. And you're not alone when those videos get you, Lachie. 100%.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of this game, you just get it. It's really wild. So I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. I think this group can concoct something special, as we kind of felt in the Qatar World Cup.
I don't know about you guys as well, but obviously in the last 2 to 3 years, we've like in media somewhat and moved towards a more impartial view of the league. Like obviously we're all still fans and we still rock up to games and support our teams, but we do try and keep that objective mind on a lot of things. Ever since that, there is nothing that gets me going as much as this, like the Socceroos at major tournaments. Like I honestly just, similar to you, it's hard to describe because it's just, my heart pounds as hard as it ever does watching the Socceroos at a World Cup. And you talk about those moments and, you know, not taking qualification for granted. You know, obviously our generation, like we know their history, but it's still hard to do that because all we've known really is 6 World Cups straight on the men's side of things. And we didn't really live through the heartbreak of Iran, but you know, we do have the heartbreak of the Italy penalty, right? I don't really have, you know, core memories of that moment, but I have Harry Kewell getting sent off with a red card in South Africa. You know, that was my like, the world is not fair. Like, how is this happening to us moment, right?
Yeah.
You know, Jacob has a bunch of international finals that England have screwed up.
Everything that's happened in the last 60 years for England football, yeah.
And Christian doesn't have anything because Italy don't make World Cups anymore. So
he was in Nappies last time they qualified for a World Cup.
Anyway, the World Cup special, isn't it? Yeah, only 100 days to go. And way before that 100 days is up, we'll be doing plenty of content digging into the World Cup. I can't wait, to be honest. It's going to be a very exciting finish to the A-League season, but just the World Cup, man, it's going to be special. First men's World Cup. We started just after the Women's World Cup in 23, didn't we, as well, with Roundball Australia, obviously under a different name back then, but first World Cup. It's going to be really, really cool. Let's finish off today real quick with our weekend look. We got 4 A-League games coming up on the weekend. Adelaide United, again, against the Phoenix on the Friday night at Cooper Stadium. This must be like the 6th or 7th time we've had Adelaide United at home on a Friday night, which, to be fair, I'm not complaining.
Well, I have heard that it's come from Paramount. They were the ones that wanted more of it because it just looks good. It's a good atmosphere. People get around it. And, you know, if you want to have your one fixture on a Friday night, you want it to look good. So,
absolutely.
I think if Adelaide are on, like, I'll chuck it on TV just because I want to see Adelaide, like, you know, shoot themselves in the foot and do some crazy stuff. Like, it's always, I think you can pair Adelaide up against any team and it's an interesting fixture, right? There's not many teams in the league that you get that kind of dynamic with 2 teams. There's so easy to have a few duds depending on who's hot in the season and people blow hot and cold. But I feel like Adelaide against anybody, it's
at home.
Something at home is something's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of a stadium that isn't too big, right? Like if we had 14 to 20,000 seater stadiums for all these teams and all these games would start to feel that way. We'll get there.
One day.
Saturday afternoon is the Jets against the Wanderers. Then the Big Blue on Saturday night, which is massive for those two teams jostling for top 6.
Wild for the victory that they've gone from a Melbourne derby into an original rivalry into a Big Blue. That's a crazy run of fixtures for them.
So they usually do that essentially every year, but in December.
Yeah,
usually those 3 fixtures
earlier in the season. Yeah,
do happen like within like a month, but now it's happened again in February, March, which you're right is quite a wild. And then the Sunday, so just the 4 games, Auckland, Perth, Glory, to round us off. So. What's our weekend look? Most at stake. No, that's not it. It's a
who's
big
it a big weekend?
It's a big weekend. Who's it a big weekend for? Honestly, actually, the Wanderers, I'm going to say. They're playing the Newcastle Jets. They've put themselves in a situation where they've come off a really, really strong performance last time out. But if they want to make finals, they essentially have to win probably, I don't know, all but 1, all but 2 of their remaining games. And they're giving the Jets straight up. So if you want to do something, if you want your fans to have any belief in you going into the last 5-6 games of the season, then what better way to do it than beat the team on top of the table currently? Jacob?
This might be a bit harsh, but I'm going to go with it because it was my gut feeling. But it's going to be a big weekend, I think, for Luka Jovanovic. He has had a very hot and cold season. Evidently a very, very, very good player. And, really is the sky's the limit for him, but he has just not been able to find consistency in his goal scoring this season. And it has hurt the team a few times, notably the Auckland game. There was a game against MacArthur a few weeks ago as well, where he had a number of opportunities and couldn't put them in the back of the net. The Jets at home as well was another one. So, and then last weekend against the Victory, he had arguably the two biggest chances of the game that didn't result in goals. It was a combined 1.57 xg from those two chances, neither of which ended up in the back of the net. One was a fantastic save by Wachowski, but the other one was obviously the hit on the post, wide open goal. So that's rocked his confidence. He looked dejected after the game. He was basically on the verge of tears as he came up to the away bay and was, high-fiving fans and stuff. And then I'm sure, as we've all seen as well, he posted in an Adelaide United supporter group on Facebook to apologise for missing the chance, which, you really feel for him for that. But it is a big weekend for him because there is strong competition in that spot now. Obviously, we've seen Brodie Burkett. He got that hat-trick against Brisbane, but every time he's come on the pitch, he's looked electric. He's got a really strong use of his body. He finds space a lot of the time really well. And, he had that goal a few weeks ago. I can't remember who it was against now, that was ruled offside, but that was a really, really good hit. So, that it's a case of he can't afford really to be missing those kinds of chances, Luca. And, it sucks to see. But I think it's going to be a big weekend for him. I think this is going to be a test of him. Is this where he bounces back? Can he bounce back from missing those two big chances against the rival, right? And just kind of settle back into form and maybe get a goal or an assist or just have a solid game? Or is he going to let it affect him? I hope he doesn't, because I think he's a quality player and I think there's a strong future for him there, but it's going to be interesting to see. So it's a big weekend for him.
I like it. Will?
I'm not used to this format. I don't think I've been on one of these midweek.
I'm so sorry.
Episodes.
I didn't give you the updated list of questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll move on then.
We'll just move on.
Well, I was gonna say similar. I think for me, the Big Blue has eyes on it. I think Stamatoulopoulos maybe wants to make more of an impact than he has in the league so far. So potentially that's a big one for him to really, show what he's about. And I mean, distantly, I hear him whisper it quietly and said in the distance, mentioned in the same breath as Socceroos. But it depends on Touré's fitness and things like that. But he's not like, at the end of the line. He's somewhere close to the top of it. So if he can fire in these last 5-6 rounds in the A-League, it can't do any harm to his chances for getting on that plane. So yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting one. And yeah, just he hasn't been able to really bet himself in so far. So hopefully he does make an impact.
Yeah, we managed to find lots of different Socceroos tangents, but like that striker position, Moture not in the March camp.
It was locked up, and now
I think it still is for the World Cup. It's just not this window, right? Yeah. We've got Nick D'Agostino, who's now out for 6 weeks. In my head, I had him as one of the top 3 strikers before the injury, going into getting selected for the World Cup. Mitch Duke hasn't let set the world on fire since coming back. He didn't really do too much tonight. Obviously, it's been difficult. Like the team hasn't been playing that well. But Stammer is absolutely one of those guys that if you close out the A-League season well, you're looking good. Like, especially as you say, with the fitness of some of these other players. So, yeah, big weekend for him. Absolutely. In a dream world is next. So, like a dream scenario, Will, of for someone in particular to go forward. I honestly could just say the Wanderers beating the Jets again, but I won't do that. I think Melbourne Victory going away to Sydney, they have not, like they've had some runs of form now where they haven't been able to lose games, but they haven't won consecutively. And I know they just drew the original rivalry, but they need to actually start stringing points together consistently if they want to end up in any good kind of sense of consistent form by May. So an away Big Blue against what's been a decent Sydney team in the last couple of weeks, 2 1-0 wins in a row. They kept 2 clean sheets, so they're going to be hard to break down for sure. So I'm going to say Melbourne Victory in Dream World, big convincing win in the Big Blue away on the weekend. Jacob?
Mine's the Jets. It's just that they just shake it off. Just they came up against a good Mariners side, a side who, as they've shown over recent weeks, are playing good football and getting results. They just go, yeah, no, well played. It was a draw. It could have been a lot worse, and we just shake it off and we go. We're hosting the Wanderers even, and we just thump them again, right? And we put 4 past them, and we play Jets football, and everybody's going, okay, yeah, it was just they came up against a good Mariners side. That would be, in a dream world for them, because they are on such a great run at the moment, and it really does feel like a lot of the talk around them is this is their big opportunity. And we've said this on the podcast multiple times now, but this is their big opportunity, not just to kind of have a good season, but set themselves up to establish a culture of success moving forwards. So yeah, it'd be in a dream world, the Jets kind of just pump the Wanderers. No hate to any Wanderers fans, but just get straight back into form and just continue on their run, because they have been so fun to watch this season.
They have. Well,
that was generally fine, was the Jets. So I didn't really have a backup planned. But I think I can argue the inverse. I can play devil's advocate a bit. I think the same can be kind of said, for the fans and doing it for the club and establishing this, sense of pride in what's left of this season. I think that can be said for the Wanderers as well, who come off the back of a really strong performance against MacArthur. They showed glimpses why people always rate them so highly, but they did it for 90 minutes and they kept a clean sheet, and I think that was most important against MacArthur as well, because the defense especially had been a bit shaky just in the first 3 quarters of the season. But if they do get a result here, and I see this game being pretty high scoring, I think it can be an entertaining one. Newcastle are going to go for it to get back on their run, as Jacob said. But I think the Wanderers can definitely get something from here. So I'd say Dreamland is Wanderers scoring a couple and really ending the season on a high.
I like it. And to finish off is the old staple, the worst case scenario. I'm looking at Perth Glory, and I'm getting a little bit worried for Adam Griffiths. We've heard little rumblings the last little murmurs the last month or so. Is he the guy that's going to take him forward into next season as well? Obviously the first kind of maybe 2 months, if you include when he was just the interim as well, were really, really positive, and they look to be building really nicely. But the track record they've had in probably the last 2 months has not been as positive. So if he has any kind of similar end to the season that David Zulic had in the last 2 years, then I think his position is definitely under threat. And I think I like him. We haven't had enough time with him to really evaluate his football too much, I think. But obviously, as his personality, he draws a lot of people in and endears himself. So I'd love him to stick around, but I think he absolutely cannot afford to get smacked by Auckland, even at home, even against what has been a very, very good Auckland team this last couple of weeks. If it gets up to that 4 or 5-0 mark, then all of a sudden that's starting to look like those results that Perth had towards the end of those Zulic seasons. So that's my worst case scenario, Jacob.
Mine is the inverse of your in a dream world, where Victory lose the Big Blue, because that's just going to, start to open up that points gap. I was talking about how the top 6 is tight at the moment, but it just takes these fixtures where it's those top 6 teams playing against each other for it to kind of swing the wrong way, right? And that gap opens up all of a sudden, and it makes, Victory's chance of making top 4 all the more difficult if Sydney get the job done over them, right? Because they're currently, 4 points ahead of Victory. That'd make it 7. Adelaide are currently 2 ahead. If Adelaide win, that makes them 5 ahead. That's a big gap at this stage of the season to try and overcome for a top 4 spot. So that's why it's, in a dream world for the Victory is they get this result, because it keeps them in that fight for top 4. It keeps them in contention. But on the other hand, obviously it's a terrible thing for them and a worst case scenario if they lose it, because all of a sudden they're really only fighting for 4th. It would be difficult for them to climb all the way back up to 3rd. So it would really limit their options, and they might have to settle for playing an away final, which is not ideal in the A-League.
Just on the balance of that idea, I just have another question for you. Do you think if Victory won this game, because they're a game ahead of the 2 teams, as we said, in 7th and 8th.
Yeah.
So currently it's a 3-point gap to the Bulls in 7th. If they win this game, obviously the Bulls don't play this weekend. So let's use them as the example. They'd be even on games played and 6 points clear with 6 games to play. Does it almost feel like if they get a win here, then that is finals, not locked up, obviously, but pretty secure?
Well, yeah. I mean, once you start to get towards that 1 point a game kind of range, that's a very difficult gap to close. You really need some fixtures to go in your favour. So, it's a win here would do them a lot of good to actually just kind of go, okay, we've slogged through. We didn't have the greatest kind of middle of the season period there, but we've still made finals. So yeah, it would be a big win for them, which is why I think it could hurt them a lot if they don't get it done.
100%. All right, Will, finish us off.
Jets being embarrassed at home. I think that curtails the season. And I mean, it's tough because we have to each come up with 3 in each category of these options.
And there's 4 only games 4 this weekend.
So I feel like we're doubling up a fair bit. But yeah, Jets to be embarrassed by still are kind of equal bottom place, bottom side on the table is not good for the mentality. I think that will have the biggest impact. Not that I'm saying that I think will happen. Obviously, this is worst case scenario. That's the segment. By all accounts, it shouldn't. But yeah, that is not going to be a good look, especially because the crowds are rocking. You want them to all turn up for the next one as well. So that would really put a halt to proceedings for them.
All right, very good. That'll do for this episode of the Round Ball Australia podcast. Thank you all very much for tuning in at home. 4 games of A-League on the weekend, but don't forget there's 2 games of Matilda's action in the Women's Asian Cup before we're going to talk to you next on Thursday night on the Gold Coast against Iran, and then down in Sydney on Sunday evening against South Korea, which that is the big game heading into the knockout stage, of course. Jacob, thank you for your time tonight.
Good to be back, Lachie.
Cheers, Will.
Yeah, thank you. I can't be being on more pods than Jacob. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. No, thank you.
The equilibrium is all broken apart here. Thank you all again very much for listening at home. Go check out the YouTube. Go tell your friends about the podcast. Plenty more coming, of course, in the lead up to the World Cup. We're getting very excited here. But thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.